for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-k.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre Maguire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
On mute there. Welcome to another edition of the Eye Test from the Sick Podcast Network. Forgive me, the sun got to me. It's pretty hot here in the New Hampshire area where I am. But yeah, another edition of the Eye Test here. We're going to recap Game 7. The Florida Panthers win the 2024 Stanley Cup, their first Stanley Cup, and they really looked like the Florida Panthers last night. We'll get into that. We're going to be joined by my co-host, Pierre Maguire, here on the episode in about, I'd say 18 minutes, we're hoping. He is in Toronto at the Hockey Hall of Fame. As we speak right now, I believe the announcements are being made on who the 2024 inductees are in the Hall of Fame. So we'll recap that with Pierre. We'll recap Game 7. And if we have time, we'll look into what is about to become a chaotic week in the National Hockey League. So many things about to happen. You've got the buyout period starting up. You've got the NHL draft coming up. And then, of course, free agency next Monday. It is going to be a busy, busy time in the league. A lot of people think, they'll say to me, "Oh, well, hockey's over now. You got an off season. You got time to spare and take a little vacation." No. For those that don't know, when you're in hockey media or you work in the NHL, usually if you're covering it on a daily basis and you need to cover the off-season transactions, you're probably not winding down into a real vacation until late July, early August. And of course, oh, by the way, on top of that, development camp starts next week for many different NHL camps as their prospects will arrive in their respective cities. So it's a busy time. It's not going to wind down until probably late July. We will, however, I want to make an announcement now. We will, however, wind down after next Monday, which will be free agency day. Pierre and I will come on at 4 p.m. Eastern, as we always do, and we will recap the free agent signings to that point, look ahead, discuss some rumors, what have you, and look ahead to the offseason in earnest. And then we don't have a start date yet. We are going to take a little break in terms of the podcast. I'm going to keep working, but we will take a little broadcast break and go on probably once a week up until September when training camp starts to kick in again. And then we'll get into the daily Monday to Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern, live here on the YouTube channel. So with Pierre not being able to come on until 3:50. Oh, and by the way, we do have another guest after Pierre as well, the great George Richards of Florida Hockey Now. He's been covering the Florida Panthers for a long, long time. Must be something for him to see them finally win the Stanley Cup. He's going to call, tell us what the environment's like, tell us what the vibe is like down in Fort Lauderdale in Miami. And I hear the elbow room just hasn't stopped in Fort Lauderdale. The Cup was back there this morning. The Cup was in the Atlantic Ocean with Matthew Tkachuk. So we'll get into all the adventures that the Cup has already been on, and it's not even 24 hours since the Florida Panthers won their first Stanley Cup. We'll get into that in a bit. What I want to do now is tell you about our sponsors, and then I want to go right to Q&A because I don't think we're going to have much time to do it later after George is on. So let's get right to that. Let's talk about our great sponsor, Betway, who has joined us recently. We're really excited to have them on board. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff for them out in Las Vegas as we go out there along with the whole crew, Tony Marinaro, and the Draftcast as well with Shane. So we're going to be doing tons of stuff for Betway out there in Vegas. But let me tell you that Betway is a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go to betway.com or go to right to that scan QR code right there. You can scan that right in front of you there if you're watching right now, and you can join the action. Remember, you must be 18 plus and you must play responsibly. I hope you didn't listen to me about my Game 7 prediction. The short-lived Murph Betway pick streak is over. So that is over. Obviously, we don't have any games to pick. Maybe we'll do like a Betway pick for the draft. Like who's going to go in the top 5? And we'll give you that on like Thursday or Friday for our broadcast. So we'll see what we can do that at. Want to talk also about my other sponsor, of course, Let's pull them up right here. TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces, and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Let's go over to the questions now. A little early. I know you guys are probably still filtering in because we started at 3:30, so I apologize. But what do we got here? Let's bring some questions up right now. Producer Jimmy, what do we got? All right. Alex Evanowski says, I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of getting tired of the Vegas, Tampa, Florida, non-traditional hockey markets making it to the finals. It might be unpopular, but give me an Edmonton versus New York final. Well, Alex, I mean, I'm kind of with you, but it is what it is. Get used to it, man. People don't want to believe it. I know a lot of fans and some media try to downplay it, but the no-tax states are going to be racking up the players. You got Arizona, Utah now, Texas, Florida, all right, Tennessee. Those are the teams to watch in the coming weeks as they transform their rosters in the trade market and free agent market, because they will be able to lure the players there. You get the good weather, you got the great golfing, and you've got the no tax, which plays a huge role. I'm interested, and I know somebody recently in the question section was talking about, will they, make it a little more fair to the teams that aren't in those no tax states? Given that, how much a salary cap plays a role in that, you combine it. And obviously these no tax states have an advantage right now. So for now, it is what it is. So get used to it. All right. Next question. Kook69, the McDavid redirect. The empty net that a Florida defender blocked, it was crazy close. I guess he was commented to Kook69 there. And by the way, I see Kook69 saying congrats, back-to-back Calder Cup winners. The Hershey Bears, of course, yeah, they beat Coachella last night as well. So they are Calder Cup champions for a second straight season. All right, what do we got? Brett Favre. I wish my Canadian team was built like the Florida Panthers. Hard to root for a Florida team, hard to root against them. Brett, if you can let me know too, I don't know which team is yours. I forget that you cheer for. But yeah, it's like I just said, it's going to be hard to beat these teams. Now, can you try to build a style like them? Obviously, they're more of the big, bad bruising style, going back to like the days of the big, bad Bruins, or maybe even like the 2011 Bruins. I mean, Bill Zito flat out admitted that he built this roster to model after the 2011 Bruins that won the Stanley Cup. And ironically, the goalie that was in the net for the Vancouver Canucks, who were beat by that Bruins squad, Roberto Luongo, congratulations to him, finally got his Stanley Cup, as he obviously works in the front office now for the Florida Panthers. So congrats to him. All right, what else we got for questions? Jeffrey B. Question. Draisaitl and Bouchard are due for a contract in a year. Granted, Bouchard would still be an RFA. What do you see them commanding at market value? I think Bouchard has elevated himself up into the 7 to 8, maybe even 9 million, depending, of course. Like, do they want to lock him up now for an extension? Okay, I'm looking more at like 7.25 a year to 8.25 million a year. But if they wait and he continues to rise and his stock goes up, you could be looking into 9.25. So if I'm the Edmonton Oilers, I get that done ASAP. As for Leon Draisaitl, this, I think, is going to be one of the biggest stories of the offseason. And if nothing happens, continuing into the regular season, if he goes in without a contract extension, which I've got a feeling he could do that. I think that this is going to be a tricky situation for the Edmonton Oilers. I'll tell you this. I know for a fact that when David Pastrnak of the Boston Bruins works out with Leon Draisaitl every summer in Prague, and he has been recruiting Draisaitl to potentially waive his no movement to get traded to the Bruins, or if he hits free agency to come to the Boston Bruins. But I'm sure there's going to be a line of teams. And of course, as we just said, you're also going to have to deal with those teams in the South, those no-tax states. But I think this is one of the biggest situations to monitor. I'm going to write about it soon over in my Substack blog that I'm doing right now. It's called Murphy's Hockey Law. You can check it there. I'll tweet the link in the coming days. I'm going to have a lot more writing up there in the next few days and into free agency next week. So definitely a situation to keep an eye on will be Leon Draisaitl. All right, next question. Randy Workman. Question, Jimmy, what do you think of what Tkachuk said about his message to the Calgary fans, not letting Edmonton win the cup? I thought it was great. I thought it was classy. I thought it was the fact that he showed that respect to them, I thought was great. And, I hope the fans there now can maybe forgive him for wanting out. It's just one of the things. It's a business. It is what it is. He didn't see this going in the right direction there, and he was right, obviously. Look where the Flames are now. So I thought it was a classy move. And, man, I mean, we want to talk about class. You know what, Jimmy? Let's go to the soundbite I gave you of Paul Maurice talking to Kyle Bukowski after the game on the ice. And I'm going to play this again with Pierre, but let's go to right now because it's appropriate because I love what he said at the end about the Winnipeg Jets. Let's cut to that clip right now.
It's not what I thought it would be. It's so much better, but it's the hugs, man. I saw Sam Bennett smile today. First time in 2 years. It's brilliant. It's for my mom and dad in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. My brothers Mike and Shane in Sault Ste. Marie and Waterloo. The whole Langlois clan in LaSalle, Ontario. All of the people that suffered through 30 years of me losing, making excuses. Mom and dad especially. Hey, Dad, your name's going up with your heroes. Belleville, Richard, Hal, Lindsay, Maurice.
Last one for you. After your time in Winnipeg, you were prepared for a career in fishing, but I wonder if there is a better catch than Lord Stanley.
Well, I was just lucky. You know what? It was. So if I could have one thing more, it'd be for the Winnipeg Jets to win the next Stanley Cup.
Paul, congratulations.
Thanks, Scott.
I mean, if that doesn't get you a little emotional, if that doesn't pull on the heartstrings, if that doesn't make you understand not only the sacrifices by him or the players that are made to get to this point and hoist the Stanley Cup, but by their families and all their friends and everybody along the way that's helped them get to here. If that doesn't pull on you there, you got to check yourself and make sure you got a heartbeat. I mean, that was pure class, and I wouldn't have expected anything less from Paul Maurice, by the way, but that was awesome. And then, drawing it back to the Calgary comment by Tkachuk, really classy for him to say there. I hope the Winnipeg Jets go out and win the Stanley Cup. Now, I don't know. Does that mean that Florida's not going to win back-to-back here? But that was great. Really classy. I know things ended kind of in a mysterious way, we'll put it that way, when he got up and left Winnipeg, said that it had just drained on him too much. And so for him to take the time to give a shout out to them was great. It reminded me a lot, both him and Tkachuk. It reminded me a lot. I don't know if you guys remember when the Red Sox broke the curse in 2004, but I know you people in Montreal remember this. It was great. Pedro Martinez in the dressing room after with the champagne and the goggles. And he says, "This is for you, Montreal, for the Expos, for all of you that will never get a team again." Or, and unfortunately that was true, but I love when players look at that, or coaches, GMs, what have you, and they appreciate that their previous teams, that's part of them. That's part of the journey. And that's what Paul Maurice did, was he gave a shout out to the journey. All right, let's go to the next question. Alex Evanowski. Jimmy, your thoughts on the Allmark trade? I think it was as good as it was going to get. Alex, I love you. You're one of our best question people out there. You make great points, but for this, I 100% disagree. And I'll tell you why. And it's not his fault that the Ottawa Senators were dumb enough to give him the contract he has. But taking on that albatross of a contract of Eunice Korpisalo just to get the 25th pick overall in what, as Pierre Maguire here on this podcast, and I know on Melnick as well, and many other amateur scouts have told me, this is a draft that beyond the top 5, maybe you're pushing in the top 7. Let's just give it a little cushion and say the top 10, okay? That beyond the top 10 is a complete crapshoot in terms of, are these going to be bona fide regular NHL players in the future. It is a crapshoot. Nobody can tell where anybody's going to go. People have been throwing darts left and right leading into this thing, and they still are. And that's fine. That's because the talent level drops off drastically after the top 10. Pierre will say after the top 5. But I'm just being nice and give it a cushion. So you're going to take on that salary. Wasn't the point of getting rid of Linus Ullmark? Was the point not to gain cap flexibility? Because you're now going to have to give probably over $8 million a year for 8 years to Jeremy Swayman. Was that not the point? I just could have sworn that was what Don Sweeney said. If they're able to do it, they're going to do it, and they'll get the cap flexibility they want. What they gave $1.3 million? Whoop-de bleeping D. I mean, look, I think Don Sweeney's track record in trades way better than track record in free agency and long-term deals. Don Sweeney's pulled some heist himself, but he just got fleeced by a rookie GM and Steve Stais, in my opinion. Okay, and unless he's turning around by the time he speaks to the media on Thursday or by free agency on Monday, unless he is able to turn around and flip Korpisalo to get out from under that and gain the cap flexibility that he needs. Now, I know people are going to say, well, look at all the million they have. They have look at all the cap space they have already, 20-something million, whatever. I don't have the exact number in front of me. But yet, people aren't counting the things he has to do in-house to address. So now you got to cut that by a quarter at least when all is said and done. And that's what you really have to spend on the open market. So he doesn't get the lefty that he wanted. Okay, maybe the whole thing with Chychrun didn't happen because Ullmark wasn't able to sign an extension with them, and so he's going in on an expiring contract. I get that. Okay, but he still needs a lefty, as Pierre and I have said all season. He needs a lefty to either slot in on the top pairing with McAvoy, or maybe you move Lindholm up and you drop whoever you get there down to the second pairing with Brandon Collar. That needs to be done. And he needs a number one center, and he needs a scoring winger. I don't know how he's going to do that as currently constituted. I really don't. And the other thing, people will say, oh, well, he needed to get this deal done. The window was closing. No, it wasn't. Go check out Steve Yzerman's comments when they asked if he was going to get in the goalie market, and go look at how important it was for him to get an extension. If he was going to go out to the goalie market, he's got Costas coming, but he wouldn't have minded, I think, a guy to come in for the next 3 years. He wanted a bona fide number one goalie. From what I was told, he had pulled back a bit, but he was definitely in on Linus Ullmark. So if that's the case, why doesn't Don Sweeney turn around and say, hey, this is what they're offering me. You do me one better. Create a bidding war. You didn't have to do that. So that's what I think of that trade. We'll get back to your final questions in a bit. I think we are joined now by my co-host, Pierre Maguire, who is up in Toronto. Pierre, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Jimmy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. We appreciate you taking the time. I know you are a busy, busy man today, but it is a busy, busy day and week going on around the NHL. Of course, you're there taking care of things with the Hockey Hall of Fame. I have not seen, Pierre, if the announcement has been made yet. Has it?
Hold on 1 second, Jimmy.
Okay.
Jimmy, you got me now?
I've got you, my friend. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I've got you now. So I don't know exactly. I'm at the airport right now, but
okay.
Hopefully there's been some announcement.
Yeah, like I'm looking on TSN right now. There's nothing up there, and I haven't gotten the email, which I usually get. So I'm sure it's incoming soon. If it does happen while we're on the air, for you listeners and viewers, we will announce it. Pierre, let's get right into it. Now, I just played a quote, but I'm going to play it again because it's so great, Pierre. So I'm going to play Paul Maurice after he won his first Stanley Cup. Took him 30 years to get it. He's talking to Kyle Bukauskas from Sportsnet, and it just, I don't know, Pierre, if this doesn't pull, like I said to our listeners and viewers, if this doesn't pull on the emotional heartstrings and make you realize what it takes to get to this point, I don't know what will. But let's play this quote right now, and then I'll get your reaction.
Alongside Paul Maurice. Paul, you said you needed to win one, and you've got one now. So what's it feel like?
It's just brilliant, right? It's I've never hugged so many sweaty men in my entire life. I'm not sure I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to do it tonight. So You know what? It's not what I thought it would be. It's so much better. But it's the hugs, man. I saw Sam Bennett smile today. First time in 2 years. It's brilliant. You know, it's for my mom and dad in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. My brothers, Mike and Shane, in Sault Ste. Marie and Waterloo. The whole Langlois clan in LaSalle, Ontario. All of the people that suffered through 30 years of me losing, making excuses. Mom and dad especially. Hey, Dad, your name's going up with your heroes. Belleville, Richard, Hal, Lindsay, Maurice.
Last one for you. After your time in Winnipeg, you were prepared for a career in fishing, but I wonder if there is a better catch than Lord Stanley.
Well, I was just lucky. You know what? It was. So if I could have one thing more, it'd be for the Winnipeg Jets to win the next Stanley Cup.
Paul, congratulations.
Thanks, Scott.
I mean, Pierre, how classy is that he gives a shout out to the Jets like that after everything that happened? And of course, his family. And you've been in his shoes. You've been in it twice, which is pretty amazing. But when you hear that, does it take you back to that moment when you won it first?
What a great question, Jimmy. Thank you for asking it. Yeah, absolutely. Really proud of Paul. I'm really happy for him. Thrilled for his family. It's an amazing accomplishment, not an easy thing to go through or to get to. And, you know, he put so much time and traveling into it. People forget about his time coaching over in Russia. You know, he coached over in Russia, in Magnitogorsk, and not the easiest place in the world to get to and not the easiest place in the world to live in. And it's always about the travel. It's about getting to the top of the mountain and how do you get there. And everybody's voyage is a little bit different. And for Paul, obviously, it was an emotional ride. And I think it's great that he saluted his family. And I love the touch at the end with the Winnipeg Jets. I just spent a good portion of my day with one of the owners of the Winnipeg Jets, Mark Chipman. And I never talked to Mark about it, but I know that he's got this burning passion to win. He wants so much to bring the Stanley Cup to the city of Winnipeg. And, you know, do I think they're close? They're close in certain parts of it, and they're not that close in other parts to it. But I know Paul really loved his time there, and I know they really respect Paul as a coach and as a person.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And Pierre, just your reaction to the game itself. Did it unravel the way you expected? And also, what was the key for Florida to kind of get it back on the rails and start to play Florida Panther hockey again? What did you see?
If you go back to our show yesterday when I was at the airport in Boston, I apologize for any background noise here. I'm at the airport in Toronto right now. One of the things I said is Florida has.
Oh, did we lose Pierre? I think we lost him. He's going to make a great point. I will say, and if we get him back, Jimmy, you can work on that if you can. I appreciate my friend. I would say one thing that I noticed was if you watch Edmonton when they won 3 in a row, what they were doing was they were kind of just really pushing things to the outside, just making sure that there were lanes open though for their goalie, just really doing a good job of pushing the guys to the outside. Oh, we got Pierre back. I'll tell you about what I did. Pierre, you there?
Yep.
Okay, so you were saying?
What's that now?
You were saying what you thought was a big difference in Florida last night?
Yeah, they were able to get to their game. They were able to get to their identity. They were able to be the Florida Panthers. And before that, they weren't able to do that. If you look at game 4, 5, and 6, they never got to their identity. I thought they got to their identity quicker. Getting the first goal, obviously, from Verhaeghe helped a lot. Reinhardt's goal was huge at the end of the second period, but they had their identity back. They were a forecheck team. They were a cycle team. They were a ground and pound team. And if you go back to the tape that we were, from yesterday, our show yesterday, that's what we talked about. They got to get back to being that team, and they got back to being that team. So, again, congratulations to them.
Yeah, it was unreal. Like they were who they were. There's a great point by you, Pierre. And one other thing I noticed too, and I thought it was a fitting call by Sean McDonough at the end. I don't know if you were watching the Canadian broadcast or the American, but on the American broadcast on ESPN, as time's winding down, if you remember, Pierre, they're up against the boards and they're jamming it up and they're trying to keep the puck jamming to bring the clock down. And Sean McDonough says, how fitting would it be if this is how it ends? Because, Pierre, throughout the course of the playoffs, I don't think there was a better team that had better board play when it came to that and kind of chopping time off the clock when they were protecting the lead than the Florida Panthers. So I thought it was fitting that that's the way it kind of ended there. And the other thing, too, Pierre, that I thought, you look at the block shots last night, and, there was only 17 registered, but there was more than that, I would say. And they did a great job of helping Bobrovsky around the net, I thought. And if there were any rebounds that were popping out, they were clearing them out right away. So just, I thought there was another thing in Paul Maurice's press conference, Pierre, where he said, of course, I wanted to come away from this game with a win, but in terms of, the game itself and what we set out to do, win or lose, I wanted to know that our game plan was executed. And he said, I can tell you honestly, even if we lost, I felt it was, and I felt that way in game 5, another game we lost. So I thought that it was interesting that, just from a coach's perspective, Pierre, and you can relate, that's kind of the main goal of a coach trying to, go in a game like that.
Yeah, I respectfully disagree with Paul in his game 5.
Oh,
I didn't think they were very good in game 5. But I thought last night in game 7, I thought they were perfect on it, what they had to do. And one of the things you talked about, and that's why I love your partnership, is that you talked about, the defensive stands. And if you think about it, there was a tremendous defensive play. First, there was a save by Bobrovsky, and then there was a tremendous defensive play where Hyman almost had an empty net, but there was a great defensive play. And then all of a sudden, it's a quick counter for Florida, and it ends up being the Reinhardt goal. So as I told a bunch of people today at the Hall of Fame meetings, and I've been seeing this all the time, and one of the guys, I won't say who I used to coach, I said to him, great defense leads to better offense. And he started laughing. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. All right. Well, let's switch gears, Pierre, because the announcements are out there now. They've tweeted it from the Hockey Hall of Fame. I'll list it off, and we'll start with the builders. Obviously, you know who it is already, but for our listeners and viewers, Colin Campbell goes in the builder category, as well as David Poyle, who goes in as a builder as well. Then we have Natalie Darwitz from USA Hockey goes in as a player. We've got Pavel Datsyuk goes in as a player. Jeremy Roenick goes in as a player. And Shea Weber goes in as a player. And then Chrissy Wendell. Pierre, I hope I don't murder her name. Is it Poole or Pole?
Pole. Her ex-husband, her husband, I should say, is a former member of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Johnny Pole.
Oh, okay.
So they both went to the University of Minnesota. They both went to the University of Minnesota together. Let's start with the women in the class. Natalie Darwitz, and tremendous player, just an awesome player at the University of Minnesota. She and Chrissy Wendell were line mates at the University of Minnesota. They're dear friends in the state of Minnesota. They both played high school versus one another. Natalie's a good friend of mine. I worked the 2014 Winter Olympics with her. I'm so happy for her and her family. When she was coaching at the Division III level in Minnesota, at Hamline, I used to speak to her team probably 2 or 3 times over the course of 3 or 5 years, I think, in that kind of a neighborhood. I think the world of her. Just one of the better offensive players the women's game's ever seen. Chrissy Wendell Pole, just an awesome player. I just have to tell you, all you need to do is go YouTube Chrissy Wendell and look at some of the plays she made over the course of her career. Just spectacular offensive plays. Just a special player and a great person. She was the MVP of the 2005 Women's World Hockey Championships. And in that World Championship, there were 7 women that are already in the Hall of Fame. There are only 10 women going into today. They're in the Hall of Fame. 7 of them played in that game, the gold medal game, and she was the MVP. So this is not a surprise. She's a special player. Then you go on the guy side, obviously Pavel Datsyuk, just an awesome player. I just can't say enough good things about Pav and the way he carried himself as a professional, as a teammate, and this is so justified. I'm so happy for him and his family. Just really special guy. Shea Weber, first time I got to know Shea, he's a kid from Sycamoose, British Columbia. He was playing for Mark Habscheid with the Kelowna Rockets. Mark would have me come in there and run some practices, and I remember telling
Mark, I said, this guy's too good. Like, whoa. And then I'll never forget, he went to back Memorial Cups with Kamloops, or Kelowna, excuse me. And then from there, he went World Junior 2005. He and Dion Phaneuf were the two best defensemen Canada had. And then it wasn't long after that in 2010, he's on the Canadian Olympic team. He wins Olympic gold in 2010 and 2014. He's just, and then the World Cup of Hockey. Shea was a tremendous player. Can't say enough good things about him. So it is really, and then Jeremy. I mean, Jeremy's been texting with me ever since he got the call from Lanny McDonald and Mike Gardner, and really emotional, Jimmy. I'm not going to pretend. Jeremy and I were teammates when Jeremy was a kid at their academy. I had he and Tony Amonte in hockey camp at the Europa Cup at Babson College. So I go way back. I mean, it's almost 40 years with Jeremy and with Tony and with Keith Kachuk, who did not get in. And so many Sean McEachran, so many Boston kids that I know. But Jeremy stood out. He was such a good player for such a long period of time. And one of the things people don't remember because it's so long ago, but when he played with Stevie Larmer and Michel Goulet, it was the best line in the National Hockey League. Yeah. It was just an unbelievable line. Jeremy's career is amazing. If you go look at the numbers and just think about it, what an amazing career. So I'm thrilled to death for him. Colin Campbell, 25 years working in the NHL front office. Amazing job helping transform the game, and the growth of the game since Colin's been there in hockey operations has been phenomenal. And David Poyle, 40 years, Jimmy, 40 years as a general manager in the NHL. So, I mean, this is a lead pipe cinch, huge class. This is an amazing class of Hockey Hall of Fame inductees.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anyone could argue with any of them, Pierre. And you bring up Hoyle. I think back to last year at the draft when Tommy Fitzgerald, made that trade at the end. They handed over, and just kind of a passing of the torch, and it was nice. But great class, and Shea Weber too, Pierre. I mean, obviously, people are going to think a lot about his Nashville days, and you mentioned his international accolades as well. But let's not forget too that he was basically playing on one leg for the Montreal Canadiens in that COVID year when they reached the final. Total Cinderella story, but he was as advertised. And I think when the Canadiens got him, they wanted a warrior, and he showed that he was still that right up until the very end. So I'm happy to see him make it. And Roenick too, man. It took long enough, but he's there. So congratulations to Jeremy Roenick. We're gonna have to get him on the podcast sometime, Pierre.
He'll come on anytime. I mean, he's a special friend. I'm really happy for him, obviously, and his family. He was extremely emotional today in a positive way. When I got the call from him, I knew, but I'm not allowed to contact, which I did not.
Right.
And it was really special, really, really special. So happy good for him.
And Pierre, I imagine the general consensus around everyone's happy and that this is out now. What's it like when you guys finally know, okay, we got it? You don't have to tell us why you chose this guy or any of that. I'm just talking general speaking. What is it like that moment when the group finally knows we got it? We got the right list here. This is it. Let's go.
I can't speak for everybody else. I know one thing. The people that I'm friends with, and I'm friends with everybody. There are 18 of us in the room. And some more than others just because you've either competed against them or you worked with them or you've just known them for longer. But I think everybody's really proud of the work they do, the preparation that they do. I can't stress enough, Jimmy, the professionalism of the people that I know on the committee is overwhelming. I think it would be the most amazing reality TV show. It really would. But the professionalism, we come in always the day before. We have a big meeting the day before, and then we have a very nice dinner in the Great Hall that's very, very private. And if we have new people on the committee, they're welcome that night. And if we don't, then it's just everybody reminiscing over old times. And it's really an amazing honor to be part of it. But I think the biggest thing is just the celebration of people being, nominated and then eventually voted in. It's really mind blowing. Really, it's a special moment. Special moment.
Well, Pierre, before I let you go, there was some action in player transactions today. And one that kind of I thought was interesting, and I want to ask you about it because you know their prospect system so well. We'll go to Pavel Datsuk's team, who before he was inducted earlier today, announced that they had traded a second-round pick in the 2024 draft coming up, and also defenseman Jake Wallman to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for future considerations. Pierre, am I wrong to be surprised that all they could get was future considerations for that?
I don't know. There might be another part of the deal that'll eventually come out on Freddie Charles. Freddie Charles's future considerations. There'd be a sense of familiarity on Wallman because he played for Providence, and Greer obviously is a BU guy, and Warsofsky's an East Coast guy. So they would know and Tommy Fitz's brother, Sean Fitzgerald, is also an East Coast guy. So they would know Jake Wallman really well from a national championship team at Providence. So they probably know, and Detroit probably knows they want to go in a little bit of a different direction. Remember, there's a guy that you and I both like, Simon Edvinsson.
Yep. That's where I was gonna go.
So no, that's okay. So I think there's some interesting things that are going to start to happen. Jimmy, you've correctly said, and I back you on this. There's going to be a lot of movement coming up here in the next little while. The Stanley Cup Final is over. The Hockey Hall of Fame induction, or the selections have been made. So now it's kind of a flat time. I know the awards are coming up, but it's kind of a flat time in the league. I think you're going to start to see some serious movement here in the next little while.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, too, like you said, they've got guys coming on the blue line there for Detroit. Will be interesting. Okay, Pierre, I know you're pressed for time. So, finally, your reaction to the Linus Ullmark trade to the Ottawa Senators.
Obviously, Ottawa identified him as a player they think can make them better. I think they're trying to move some assets that maybe came from the previous, management team and ownership group. And so they moved, a goalie that they signed to a 5-year deal that I think people in Ottawa probably didn't like. I don't know how Boston makes out, just because you don't know what the 25th pick overall is going to be. But it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting to see, the long-term ramifications for Ottawa and the long-term ramifications for Boston. The one thing I'd say about this deal, I know a lot of people are prejudging it, saying that Sweeney got swindled. I think it's too early to say that. I'd be really careful. On that till you see what they do with the 25th pick. And you see what happens with Korpisalo in a backup role. I think it's really early to prejudge the deal. I really do.
Well, here's my wondering. I wonder if Korpisalo ever gets to that point where he's a backup for Jeremy Swayman, because earlier in the day, Pierre, they signed Brandon Bussey to a 2-year extension, all right, but 2-way contract, but he can't go back down without clearing waivers now. Yeah. So I find it interesting. That's why it stunned me that they were willing to not only take on that salary with Korpisalo and his contract, but also that they brought in another goalie. So I wonder, does he get flipped within the next week or so, or 2 weeks? Pure speculation. He's telling me this, but I just want
a question I have for you. I have a question for you though.
Yep.
On the deal, and correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I've been involved in a lot of other stuff here, so I haven't been going through with a fine-tooth comb. I think Ottawa is paying some of that money, though.
25%. They did, so it comes out to $3 million a year instead of the $4 million.
Yeah, so that's a very, as a backup, a higher-end backup, that's a pretty digestible number. Maybe Boston knows the marketplace is a little bit better than maybe some other people. So again, this is one of those deals where I'd say don't prejudge it, because you never know what's going to happen in the next few days.
All right, we shall see. Pierre, I will let you go. I know you got a flight to catch. We appreciate you taking the time. Safe travels, my friend. And the next time I talk to you, I'll be in an airport tomorrow, getting ready for my flight to Las Vegas for the draft. So look forward to having that conversation with you tomorrow. Until then, safe flight, Pierre, and get back home.
Yeah, and I will call you tonight when I get back to Boston, Jimmy. Thanks a lot. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.
All right, that's Pierre Maguire joining us here on the eye test, and of course, as he always does, because he's my co-host. Let's see. Do we have George yet? No George Richards yet. Let me double check that he's not having. Oh, let me see. I got to send him that link again. 1 second here, folks. All right. Where's that link from Jimmy? Jimmy, do me a favor and send me that link again if you can. For some reason, I don't have it. It got deleted. Let me check in the trash. Interesting though, and I got to say, and I'm sure I don't know if he heard me. No, I'm guilty. I jumped ahead on the whole Bruins trade, Ottawa trade. I don't like it for all the reasons I said. But as Pierre said, let's see. Let's see what happens here. Maybe Sweeney's not done. I think there's another deal coming. I really, really do. It's like the whole Bussy thing. Unless they're going to trade Bussy, which wouldn't surprise me, and you could get some good value, good young goalie on the rise. I don't see why you do this. Why you bring in another goalie? Like I thought with them signing him, the fact he can't clear waivers, that would be their backup for Swayman going forward. I got the link, by the way, Jimmy. We're good to go. I'll send it to him. He should be linking in soon. Until then, let's go back to questions. What do we got? Which team this is from Morant. Which team or teams will rise to the occasion next season on a surprising level? I don't know how much of a surprise it will be, but I think they kind of do maybe what we thought they'd do this year. I think as a team we were just discussing, the Ottawa Senators, now that they got their goalie, I think there's more changes coming in Ottawa. I think they're going to restructure that defense, make it more of a defensive-minded blue line. So I think maybe they do what a lot of people expected them to do last year that they were unable to, and that's really challenge, if not make it at least into the wild card. And then another team, I'm going to go out on a limb here. And I know, I know they made the playoffs, but I got a feeling the LA Kings are up to something. I think we're going to see an interesting move from them. I think they get it together. They get the piece or pieces they need to finally get over the hump. Hopefully don't have to play the Oilers again in the first round. But I think maybe they get it together and go there. And then here's the big surprise. This will be the real surprise. Utah Hockey Club, whatever the hell they're called. They've got a ton of cap space to spend. They have an owner who wants to make a splash, both on the trade market and free agency. They've got good prospects coming. They have a good young nucleus. I think Utah makes the playoffs next year. I really do. And let's not forget, halfway through this season, when they were the Arizona Coyotes, they were in playoff contention, and then things just sort of unraveled. But I think they make the playoffs. All right, let's see if we got George. We do. We're going to bring George Richards in now from Florida Hockey Now. George finally has a Stanley Cup winning team to discuss and talk about. George, give us the vibe down in Southern Florida right now.
Yeah, people are excited. The Panthers are out partying with the Cup right now in Fort Lauderdale. They took it in the Atlantic Ocean. I didn't even know that was a thing. I don't know what saltwater is going to do to the Stanley Cup, but we'll find out soon enough. Aaron Ekblad, he's got a big boat. He'll hose it down or something. It'll be okay, maybe. But yeah, they seem to be having a good old time. The party went from early yesterday morning into today, so they're having.
I saw somebody tweeting underneath the video there of Kachuk bringing in the water in the ocean, saying, "I really hope this isn't the first time we see a shark attack on the Stanley Cup."
Yeah. You got the bull sharks. It's summer. It's a little warm for the sharks.
I don't know. Could the shark teeth get through it? It's a tough cup. That cup. It's been through a lot.
It could dent it, though.
It could dent it.
Shark, sure. Yeah. No, let's talk about this. Could a shark? Yeah, it would dent the heck out of the cup.
Yeah. There's been plenty of dents on that thing, and I'm sure there's going to be more stories coming.
It wouldn't penetrate. You're right about that.
Yeah, it would not penetrate. But take us back to last night, George, and just the vibe going in, not just with the team, but in the building, given that they had just blown a 3-0 lead. How tense was it? How optimistic was it? How pessimistic was it? Give us that feeling of what it was like heading into that game.
I think it was more a nervous cautiousness. I mean, listen, you had the opportunity of a lifetime, right? The Stanley Cup Game 7, but in Sunrise already had that in Game 5, and they didn't get it. And I just think that the weight of it, what it would have meant for Florida to lose the Cup last night, honestly, might have been bigger than winning it. You don't escape that. That now we can openly talk about it, right?
Yep.
The Florida Panthers franchise, that stink would not have come off them. It'd take years, 20 years, 30 years. You'd be talking about Alexander Barkov going into the Hall of Fame, and the talk, well, he was on that 3-0 Panther team, right? I mean, that's what the talk would be about that team. For all the good that they've done the last 3 years, been to the finals twice, won the President's Trophy, yada, yada, yada. That's what you would have talked about. Now, everybody's like, well, what about the 1942 Red Wings? Have you ever talked about the 1942 Detroit Red Wings? Unless a team was up 3-0 and all of a sudden it's 3-2. That's the only time they ever get brought up.
Yes.
This would have been brought up all the time. And right, for an organization that's had such little success as the Panthers over the course of their thing, only recently have they been good. It would have been really hard to shake.
And for one person in particular, too, and I know everybody's talking about him today, finally, after 30 years, he gets his first Stanley Cup, Paul Maurice.
Yep.
Imagine if he had lost that. Like,
right.
I was talking to a scout last night who's been part of management teams in the NHL, and I said, does he survive this if they lose? Does he have a job? And he said, well, I think so, but he's going to be on a pretty short leash to start next year. That's what I think would happen. But just after everything he had been through, to have that happen would have been brutal, George.
Listen, Paul Maurice is very secure in the job that he's done. I talked to Jamie Compton, the assistant coach, last night, who he brought in. Jamie, a two-time Cup champ with Chicago and LA. He was like, man, Paul Maurice doesn't have to prove anything to himself, right? Maybe to his players. But as soon as the Panthers lost the game, the barbs were coming. The losingest coach in NHL history. He's got more losses. It's took him, he doesn't have the cup, da-da-da-da-da. Well, Jimmy, you're a smart guy. You know why Paul Maurice has the record that he does. He stepped into tire fires this whole year. This is the first time that Paul Maurice stepped into a good situation in Florida, and he tore it down to build it back up. Yeah. He coached the Hartford Whalers just before they moved. He coached a Raleigh team that played in Greensboro. That Toronto team stunk, right? The Winnipeg Jets were fresh out of Atlanta. They stunk.
Yep.
And he built all of them up, except for Toronto, because he was only there the 2 years. But, this was a big deal for him, because now it's all, like he said last night on ESPN to Scott Van Pelt, he said, I'm going to run him to death now because I got carte blanche. You can't touch me now. You can't touch Paul Maurice. Nothing can hurt the man, right?
Good for him.
Good for him. He's got the rest of his life. They're never taking that name off the cup, and that goes for a lot of guys, but Paul Maurice in particular, sure.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Two other guys I've grown to know over the years, bumping into them in press boxes and keeping in touch with them, and just both class guys, hockey lifers, and that's Paul Fenton and Rick Dudley.
Right.
And to see that, and by the way, Fenton's son as well, but to see that them get that cup, when I saw Rick Dudley hoist it up there, I got teary-eyed because I know what that guy's been through. Think of how many times.
How about what he's been through here in Florida?
Think of how many times, George, that he's built teams up and then he wasn't around to reap the benefits. Right. Look at Tampa Bay, right? I mean, it was just. So just to see him get it, I was so psyched for him. Just your thoughts on those two guys and what it means.
Both those guys, Bill Zito brought in. He wanted to have an experienced front office. This was his first shot at it when he came over from Columbus, and he brought in Paul Fenton, who I believe had just gotten fired by Minnesota, if I remember right, and Rick Dudley, who'd been all over the place, including here in Florida in the early 2000s, and lost a power struggle with Mike Keenan. And ended up leaving. Those guys have been a big part of Bill Zito's front office. They've, they know the business inside and out. They've helped, not that Bill Zito didn't, because he was an assistant at Columbus. He was an agent for all those years. But it's always good to have other voices and all that. And he loves those guys. Here's a guy that I'm going to mention that would have been nice to have seen in the building or somewhere, but he's probably on a golf course, is Dale Talon.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's another guy that got yanked out of Chicago just before it got good. In 2016, I think the Panthers were building something, and he got yanked out in that power struggle, only to come back. And, it didn't work out that time. But I'm just saying, he meant a lot to this organization. He left it in a lot better shape than it was in when he got there. But yeah, there's a lot of Roberto Luongo. I just did a story on NHL.com on Roberto Luongo. And Roberto Luongo, all those years, all those great years, he loses Game 7 to Boston. He's a Stanley Cup champion. Roberto Luongo lifted the cup last night. His name's going on the cup. Yep. So there's a lot of great stories player-wise. Poso.
Yep.
Right? I mean, this is probably his last kick at the can. We got a story up right now. He was talking to his family about retiring last summer. And they were like, well, if you want to do one, if you want to do it, we got you. He ends up winning the cup. There's a ton of those kind of Sergei Bobrovsky. My goodness.
Oh, God.
Spencer Knight is a Stanley Cup champion.
I like
there's a lot of great stories, hundreds of them.
I love too the shot when Paul first got the cup, Paul Maurice, and he got it from Spencer Knight.
Yeah.
And he kissed him.
And
he hugged him, pulled him in. Yeah. We all know. I mean, we don't know half of what, but we know that he's been through some battles this year, obviously emotionally and physically. So that moment I thought was pretty touching for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now I got to talk to Spencer a little bit about it, and I kind of made a faux pause, like, yeah, your name's going to be in the cup. And then I go, wait a second. Sorry, man. I know it's not. I said, but you're getting a ring. Yeah, he was great. Spencer was great. Listen, he wasn't with this team last year. We know, he left the team middle of last year to go into the player assistant program and came back. He came back in the summer, right after the Panthers lost in the Stanley Cup Final. The Panthers and Spencer Knight had to file with the NHL to allow him to go to development camp because he, experienced out, not aged out, but experienced out. He wanted to get back to playing hockey that badly. He did everything the Panthers asked him to do this year. He had a great year in the AHL. He came up. He was the number 3 goalie in the playoffs. Good for him. It was great to just, Spencer was just standing there by himself on the ice in his uniform, and we just chatted for a minute. It was nice.
Nice. How about, and you must get sick of it, but you're probably used to it by now. Just, people saying, oh, it's not a hockey market. They don't have real fans down there and all that. But for the real fan base that's there, that is stuck with them through so many years, and you've seen it firsthand, what these fans have gone through, how happy are you for them that they finally can hang their hat on this and say, we're a hockey town. Don't ever forget it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's the whole thing, listen, I've been covering this team 20 years, so everybody's like congratulating me. No. I'm doing this for you guys. I mean, those fans, listen, my story. I got laid off by the Athletic. What was I going to do? I was like, you know what? Nobody covers the Florida Panthers. I'm going to start this site and cover them because they deserve to be covered. Their fans deserve daily coverage of this team. So that's what I did. It hasn't made any money,
but it's a labor of love.
But I did it. I did it because the team deserved the coverage. The fans deserved to get professional coverage of this. I'm not doing that. But that's what last night was. Yeah. Last night was walking around and seeing all these people with just crying, right? Yeah. Holding those rubber rats from '96 and all that stuff. It's awesome, man. And listen, is this Edmonton? Is this Boston? No, it's not. Everybody knows it's not. If I was trying to tell somebody, if the Miami Dolphins won the Super Bowl, 60% of the population down here doesn't care.
Yeah.
They're either from somewhere else. They don't like whatever. So now you're introducing a completely foreign sport like ice hockey in this market. It's always going to be an uphill battle. But the fans that they have, who's more loyal? The fans in Arizona? Maybe, for all the stuff that they've been kicked in the pants with. They've taken a lot of slings, a lot of arrows, a lot of just move the team already. Just move them. Move them to Quebec.
Yep.
They dealt with that for a long, long time down here. And that's why I was like, yeah, good for you guys. You guys, That's what it was all about.
And as you're talking, I'm also thinking about they also had to watch their rival win 2 Stanley Cups back to back. Like, and they're like, really? Like, so
right.
Good for them. Congratulations to them. Well, listen, I know you say you're not part of that, but you do a great job down there, George. I appreciate all the work you've done and all the time you take to help me on this podcast throughout the season. So cheers to you, my friend. Enjoy it if you can, and we'll keep in touch, okay?
All right, Jimmy. Thanks.
And I like those T-shirts. Those are awesome.
How about that?
Yeah, I like those, man.
I don't even know how to share. What am I doing here? I don't know.
Other side.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, that's a great logo. Good job. I like those. I might have to get one of those, my friend. All right.
On the store, baby.
Thanks, buddy. George Richards joined us here from Florida Hockey Now on the eye test. And congratulations again to the Florida Panthers, their whole organization and their fans. Somewhere, too, Wayne Huizenga is smiling as well, right? Let's get back. I see a few more questions in there. I'm not going to leave you hanging. So let's answer those questions, and then I'll sign off. And the next time I'll talk to you will be from Logan Airport as I get ready for my flight to head west to Las Vegas for the NHL draft. All right, what do we got for questions? Jason Logan, what's up, Jay? And by the way, too, I didn't get to say this yesterday, but now that I see Jason there, and she was a mutual friend of ours. Jason and I lost a good friend this past weekend, suddenly and tragically, Seymour Ward. So we're thinking of her and her family, and obviously I'm thinking Jay knows what I'm talking about, of our McLean's family in Montreal right now. You guys are in my heart. I feel your pain. So shout out to them. All right. Jason Logan says, hey, Murphy, you think Brady will be even more motivated to win now after his brother won and Ottawa hasn't made the playoffs for a while? Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great thing for the Sens, man. That's a great point by you, Jay. I didn't even think about that. So good things are happening for the Sens. There's another reason why my playoff pick might happen, because you've got a motivated Brady Tkachuk. And trust me, when you're a player and you get to experience that, maybe because of a family member or a good friend, and you're around it, and, a lot of these guys have so many friends throughout the league, so sometimes they'll be at cup parties, but of course they don't touch it until they win it. But when you see it firsthand, the magnitude of it, the meaning of it, it gives you a whole new perspective on why you're playing. I guarantee it makes you look at things differently. So, yeah, I think that's a great point by Jason. I think you're going to get a pretty motivated, inspirational Brady Tkachuk for the Ottawa Senators next season. All right, what do we got? Keep them coming. Gabriel Lamb, how do you feel this morning? That Morella has given up in Arizona. I don't know if he gave up, more that he got pushed out. Nobody wanted him. From all accounts, I'm just going based off what I read, what I talk to people. This guy's a crook and a liar. So good riddance, good for Arizona. I think this now clears the path. Won't be soon, but eventually they'll get their team there, because this jerk that put him in the ground and then wound up having to have the team go to Utah, good riddance to him. All right, next question. I didn't hate McDavid's Game 7. He set up a handful of plays that he easily could have ended up in the back of Florida's net. I'm with you, Evan. I'm totally with you. And look, for those people right now, by the way, I got to get this off my chest too, because I'm seeing it all day. I've been seeing it since it happened. Any of you out there who think that Connor McDavid owed it to us or to the league or to anyone to be out there for that Conn Smythe trophy, check yourself. Do a little twirl there. I wholeheartedly disagree. Do you know what it must feel like to come back from a 3-0 deficit in a Stanley Cup Final and then be one play away from forcing overtime and potentially winning the Stanley Cup? Do you know everything that he went through, what he did to get the team to that point? All right? What do you think he feels like? Do you think he really wants to go out and shake Gary Bettman's hand and watch the real trophy that he wanted be paraded around the ice and see the celebration from the Panthers? I don't blame him one bit. So let's lay off Connor McDavid, all right? So sorry to go on that rant there, but I had to get that off my chest because I'm sick and tired of seeing it on Twitter today. But yeah, I thought he played a great game. I thought a lot of Oilers played a great game. It could have gone either way. That was a great hockey game. I know you maybe want to see more scoring, but that was a grinding, tight, emotional, physical game. I walked away happy from that game as a hockey fan and a hockey reporter. All right, next question. I think we might be done. Okay, I got you, Jimmy. You know what? I think we are done. That is it. And so, good point by Jimmy. I never got to play it. I wanted to play it when George was on, but we'll play it now. And congratulations again to the Florida Panthers, the 2024 Stanley Cup champions. I'm Jimmy Murphy. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre Maguire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.